think that led to me as an adult really retaining this interest in biology and growing specifically into looking around at the animals and the remarkable behaviors that the animals have all around the planet. You have animals that can dive to extraordinary depths or thrive at very high altitudes. That's what really started driving the kind of questions I was asking as a scientist. And then now I would say it came full circle in my time on the space station because I was the animal in the extreme environment, the most extreme of environments in space.
Curiosity is what drives Jessica Meir. She doesn't just sort of sit back and think about the fact that she was part of the first all-women spaceflight team, that she is one of only 45 NASA scientists. She is compelled by the future, and now she's looking forward to the next adventure in space. Artemis will fly 250,000 miles into outer space.
It was so cool to see Jessica Hanukkah socks in space. And the only thing I think that would be even more inspiring than that is to see those socks on the moon.
Maybe that dream will come true as well in the future. And that's the big one. You know, this is something that has captivated us as astronauts and scientists and explorers for so long, for decades now.
We know the Apollo effect that drove young people to do STEM education. And we know it from the Bereshit project in Israel that space could and must attract young people to science.
Being an astronaut is such an unusual thing. So few people can do it. I think it's the most dramatic role models we can have for young people. Jessica studied so many different areas of science, and the interdisciplinarity that Jessica shows is also one of the key things about the Weizmann Institute.
Jessica is an inspiration also for collaborative science, and that is one of the hallmarks of Weizmann Institute.
And right now we are actually working on a project together with NASA, which is called Ultrasat, which will bring together new technologies, many of them new Israeli technologies, to do frontier science in astrophysics.
I think another one of the central tenets that resonates with me quite strongly is this idea of pursuing science for the benefit of humanity. And that is something that drives everything that we do here at NASA. When you have the privilege of looking down at the Earth for the first time with your own eyes, it really is life-changing. We don't see those man-made boundaries from space, those borders that we've imposed upon ourselves as humans. It's just these continuous masses of land and ocean, and you realize that we're in this together. As we're going out to the launch pad, my Russian commander, Oleg Skripochka, and also Hazar Leon Mansouri. This was a historic flight because he is the very first astronaut from the United Arab Emirates. We like to think that we were solving world peace by sending the two of us on one spacecraft together. You can see the different stages of the rocket separating as they're expended with fuel. And this picture was taken by my colleague Christina Cook from the space station. That was us in the Soyuz approaching the space station from her view inside. And this is our view as we're approaching the space station for docking.
Astronaut Jessica Meir making her first flight to the station.
As you can see, I was pretty excited to be there. I was smiling that big really for pretty much the entire 7 minutes. I thought I was only 6 at the time, I guess, but... So one of the best things about living and working in space is just the fact that you're in microgravity all the time, 24 hours a day. And it just kind of makes you into a little bit of a 5-year-old. It brings a sense of levity when you can spin around in a ball or you can shoot down the length of the module. Preparing our food, most of it's dehydrated or just warmed up, but you saw, it's okay to play with your food in space. Even more fun to drink water. Exercise, though, of course, is an incredibly important part of our day. We have 2 hours on our schedule to exercise because our bones and muscles would significantly deteriorate without gravity, and this is why we need that loading. You saw the weightlifting machine that we have called the A-Red. We have the treadmill and then also the cycle ergometer. Even washing your hair is a lot more fun, brushing your teeth when you can spin upside down. We were up there for several holidays, Halloween, and several commemorative 50-year anniversaries for some of the Apollo missions. And we have instruments too. Of course, there were a lot of people that celebrated Christmas, but as you probably have seen, I didn't forget my Hanukkah socks. I think this was the most famous picture that I sent down during the mission. We're doing experiments ranging from protein crystal growth, combustion science, as you see here, even flames burn differently in space without gravity, without convection. We do radiation experiments, material science. We do cell biology. This is launching a small satellite out of the airlock in the Japanese module. We grew lettuce during my mission. This is Mizuna lettuce, a nice kind of mustardy green, and it was wonderful to have something green and growing that we could take care of in that very sterile environment. And we got to have a fresh salad at the end of that experiment as well, so that was a treat. This is the life sciences glove box. I'll talk a little bit more on some of the experiments we did in there, specifically this fluid shifts experiment, a very comprehensive physiology experiment that we did. This is our -80 freezer, so I'm sure there are a lot of these around Weizmann. This is how it looks when you're putting things in the freezer in space. We did a lot of spacewalks during my mission. Normally, in a 6-month mission, you would maybe only do 1 or 2 spacewalks. They take a lot of time, a lot of our resources on board. We did 9 spacewalks in 4 months just because of things that were going on, so we were very busy.
You're gonna do great today.
And this is footage from that first all-female spacewalk.
Have a great UVA.
Drew, thank you so much. Thank you, Drew. Thank you so much.
That's Luca Parmitano, an Italian astronaut. He's flying the robotic arm that Christina is on the end of right now. I flew that arm for some other spacewalks that Drew and Luca did at a different time during this expedition, and I was speaking about that to some of the scientists here. That was to repair the alpha magnetic spectrometer on the space station, so if you're an astrophysicist in the crowd, you've probably heard of that one. Doing a spacewalk is really the most extraordinary thing of the mission, because you're out there in your spacesuit, really your own little self-contained spacecraft with everything that you need to keep you alive, and the Earth even looks different through that very thin visor than it does from inside the space station. So how do we resupply the space station? We have a few different types of cargo vehicles that come up. They're full of everything that we need to use up there, our food, new experiments, clothes, hardware, whatever we need. They come up and we use the robotic arm. We fly that over and reach down and grab the spacecraft and bring it in. This is a Northrop Grumman Cygnus vehicle. This is an HTV vehicle, a Japanese cargo vehicle, and the first one was a SpaceX Dragon. We get fresh fruits and vegetables sometimes that make us really happy when we're in space. That's how that cheese got up there as well in one of these cargo vehicles. And in the end, we actually fill these vehicles full of our trash, and they burn up in the atmosphere, with the exception of the SpaceX Dragon, which can splash down in the ocean, and then we can send any samples or hardware back down that way. If we're not doing science or spacewalks, or fixing the toilet or something else on board, you can surely find at least one astronaut in the window, because of course that's where we want to spend most of our free time, just appreciating that magnificent view that we have of our planet. Taking photos, not only for our personal enjoyment, but also for science. We have a series of experiments called Crew Earth Observations, where we're documenting different areas to see things like the retreat of glaciers in Patagonia, for example, passing over the same point for 20 years now. We can add to that data set. There's the coast of Israel. 16 sunrises and sunsets per day when we're in this orbit, since we're going around every 90 minutes. Those were flashes of lightning that you saw, and then you see all the city lights at night. It's really amazing. This is Africa. That's the Nile River in Cairo. I think I was talking about that to some people last night. These are squid boats off of the coast of Thailand, those green lights. And these green lights are, of course, the northern and southern lights, which we're so lucky to see from space, and it's really a fantastic show. Those 205 days went by far too quickly for me. I would have much preferred to stay in Lonnie, so it was not a good time to be coming back to Earth. We had watched the whole pandemic unfold from the space station, so it was quite surreal to realize we were coming back to a totally different planet. Very dynamic process after you undock from the space station. Once you send that deorbit burn command, when you re-enter through the atmosphere, the spacecraft is literally burning up, but thankfully you're protected by your heat shield. This is a view out my window, so you can actually see this plasma. And then you touch down in the middle of nowhere in Kazakhstan. Back. Drew's still a little bit wobbly there, as you can see, adjusting. We're back within 24 hours. We were back in Houston. A few of our friends and family members had quarantined. My family was supposed to be there, but of course travel was really locked down at the time, so it was difficult for us to see all the people we were